Is India going woke? Well, the short answer to that is no. But there are some peculiar indications that the woke ideology, and specifically the trans ideology, is making its way to India. Now, recently, Indian Bride magazine had this amazing cover photo of a man in a bridal outfit. And the man was just chock full all over his body of hair. In fact, my cousin Warren, WhatsApping me from India, goes, Dinesh, this guy has more hair than all the carpets in our house combined. And but kind of a peculiar phenomenon. And I'm guessing that what's happening here is that the sort of, the way that the trans ideology implants itself is it works through the creative, artistic people who tend to dominate advertising agencies, tend to design the covers of magazines. And not only is there a higher population of gays in that community, but then those guys also use their influence in media, in advertising, in public relations to push these ideas out there. It seems, for example, even in this country, when we think about the ads for Miller Lite, for Bud Light, the idea that these sort of beer drinking companies with a beer drinking audience would be promoting a trans agenda, well, that's coming from the advertising agencies that they commission. Hey, make an ad for us. And this is what they get back. Now, one of the ways that trans ideology is being pushed is it's being pushed in India from America. So here's Starbucks. Starbucks has apparently generated controversy in India now by releasing an ad that promotes transgenderism. Now, what is the ad about? Well, it's basically about this couple, and they're waiting to see their child that has transitioned, and the father has not, in fact, seen his daughter since the transition, and the daughter has changed her name and essentially looks different, is now obviously has a completely different makeup. And suddenly the barista calls out the name, and the name is not the male name, it's a female name. But there's only one letter difference. So it was Arpit, and now it's Arpita. And the father's all flustered, and then the father kind of reconciles him to it and basically says something idiotic like, well, it's not really a big difference. It's only a difference of one letter. Well, either it's an important difference or it's not. Who can say the difference between male and female is not an important, fundamental difference? We're all born into the world one or the other. We're not born into the world as generic human beings. And then the Starbucks caption in the ad, this is how they end the ad: your name defines who you are, whether it's Arpit or Arpita. At Starbucks, we love and accept you for who you are because being yourself means everything to us. Now, this be yourself notion, which again, you can see it's a very American notion, but it's a notion that should be understood to have limits. I mean, if you were to meet a young Hitler, and he's like, well, I've just encountered my first Jews, and my idea is to actually kill all these people. Would you really say, be yourself, because our goal is to accept you, to quote Starbucks, because being yourself means everything to us? In other words, don't try to change. Don't try to be anything other than the true Adolf Hitler, because that's, after all, the recipe. No, you wouldn't say that. No one would dream of saying that. And it's really important to realize that what Starbucks is doing here, this kind of assault on Indian sensibilities, is done in a very cunning way. First of all, Arpit is obviously a Hindu name. And I think Starbucks has made the sly calculation that it's a little easier to try to browbeat the Hindus than it would be the Muslims. I mean, Starbucks would never dream of taking a Muslim guy and going, well, you know what? You used to be Muhammad, or you used to be Abdul. Now we're going to call you a female name. Because why? Because the Muslims would surround Starbucks and set the place on fire. And then Starbucks would be like, oh, sorry, we didn't mean to offend Muslim sensibilities. So they're sly enough to say, all right, but we think the Hindus are nice guys. They're go along, get along types. We're going to try to browbeat them with this kind of stuff, but we're not going to try it in Qatar. We're not going to try it in Saudi Arabia. We're not going to try it in Egypt because there are going to be riots and Starbucks is going to be forced to get out of the country. So this is really how the ideology is pushed. It's pushed on weak people who don't resist. And in fact, here is an Indian commentator saying, Starbucks in Saudi, UAE, Qatar have been around for much longer than India, yet you will never see them place such ads there. And my question is why? If you're so proud of this trans ideology, you don't care about profits, you really want to promote the idea that people should be who they are, why aren't you promoting this worldwide? Why aren't you pushing it, for example, in China? Why aren't you asking the Chinese to feature these kinds of ads? The answer is Starbucks does not do that. So they are playing a dirty game here in India. And of course, the consequences are bad for the United States because the Indians then identify Starbucks with the United States and then say the United States is pushing perversion in India. And to some degree, that's right.